There is a war being waged inside your body right now, a battle you cannot see with your eyes, but one that determines whether heaven's blessings can flow freely into your life, or whether they remain blocked at an invisible barrier you built with your own hands, with your own choices, with what you put into your mouth 3 times a day, without ever realizing the spiritual consequences. Before we unlock this life-changing revelation, I invite you to join this sacred community. Subscribe to Jewish Wisdom. When you subscribe, you are not just clicking a button, you are making a covenant with yourself that you are ready to live differently, eat differently, think differently. You are declaring that you refuse to remain in ignorance about the spiritual laws that govern blessing and blockage. Your subscription is your yes to transformation. Now, I want you to write something powerful in the comments below. Write these words: I choose spiritual clarity over temporary pleasure. Let this declaration mark the beginning of your journey. Do not just type it casually, speak it from your heart as you write. This is your first act of commitment. Write it now. Listen to me carefully, because what I am about to reveal to you has been hidden in plain sight for thousands of years. The ancient sages of Israel understood something that modern society has completely forgotten. They knew that food is not neutral. They knew that what you eat does not just affect your physical body, it affects your soul, your consciousness, your spiritual sensitivity, your ability to receive divine communication, your capacity to walk in blessing. This is not superstition. This is not religious extremism. This is spiritual science that has been tested and proven over 4 millennia by a people who have survived every attempt to destroy them, who have thrived in every nation where they were exiled, who have maintained an unbroken connection to the divine through practices that the world dismissed as primitive. In the mystical traditions of Judaism, there is a teaching that every substance you consume carries a spiritual frequency. Some frequencies elevate your soul, sharpen your spiritual senses, open channels for blessing to flow into your life. Other frequencies do the opposite. They dull your spirit, cloud your discernment, create barriers between you and the very blessings that heaven is trying to release to you. And here is the shocking truth that most people never realize. You can be praying fervently, reading scripture daily, giving generously, and still experience blocked blessings simply because of what you are eating. Think about this for a moment. The Bible tells us that the very first sin in human history involved food. In the Garden of Eden, everything was perfect until Adam and Eve ate something they were told not to eat. It was not murder, it was not theft, it was not idolatry. The first breach in human relationship with God happened through consumption. The first disconnect between heaven and earth occurred at the table. Does this not tell you something profound about the spiritual power of what we put into our bodies? The ancient rabbis taught that the human being is a bridge between heaven and earth, between spirit and matter, between the eternal and the temporal. We are created from the dust of the earth, yet we carry the breath of God in our lungs. We are physical beings with spiritual capacity. And food is the most constant interaction we have with the physical world. 3 times a day, minimum, we are taking matter from outside ourselves and making it part of ourselves. We are literally incorporating the physical world into our being. This act is never neutral. It is always either elevating us or degrading us, sanctifying us or defiling us, opening us to blessing or closing us to it. But here is where it gets even deeper. The Hebrew word for eating is akila, which comes from the same root as kala, to complete, to perfect. Eating, when done correctly, is an act of spiritual completion. It is meant to take raw creation and elevate it through human consciousness and divine intention. When you eat with awareness, with blessing, with gratitude, with consciousness of the Creator, you are participating in the ongoing work of perfecting creation. You are taking the material and infusing it with the spiritual. You are becoming a partner with God in the act of transformation. But when you eat unconsciously, when you consume without intention, when you put into your body substances that carry low spiritual frequencies, you reverse the process. Instead of elevating matter, you allow matter to drag you down. Instead of spiritualizing the physical, you physicalize the spiritual. Instead of opening channels for blessing, you construct barriers that block what heaven is trying to send you. There are people right now who are crying out to God for breakthrough, for provision, for healing, for favor, for open doors, then heaven is responding. The blessings are being released. But there is a blockage in the receiver. There is static in the signal. There is interference in the transmission. And that interference is coming from the very food they are eating, the very substances they are consuming, the very habits they are maintaining, without ever connecting the dots between their diets and their destiny. The prophet Daniel understood this. When he was taken captive to Babylon, he was offered the king's delicacies. the finest food in the empire. Anyone else would have considered this a privilege, a blessing, a provision from God in a difficult situation. But Daniel refused. He asked for simple vegetables and water instead. Why? Because he understood that the spiritual frequency of the king's food would compromise his ability to receive divine revelation. And what happened? After just 10 days on this different diet, Daniel and his friends appeared healthier than all the other captives. But more importantly, Daniel began to receive dreams and visions that changed the course of nations. His diet determined his destiny. For the next few moments, I am going to reveal to you 5 specific things that are stealing your energy and invisibly blocking your blessings. These are not random opinions. These are principles rooted in ancient wisdom, confirmed by rabbinic teaching, validated by 4,000 years of Jewish survival and thriving. Some of what I share will challenge you. Some will make you uncomfortable. Some will require you to make difficult changes. But I promise you this: if you receive this teaching with an open heart, if you apply what you learn, if you make the adjustments that are required, you will experience a shift in your life that you never thought possible. Blessings that have been blocked will begin to flow. Energy that has been drained will be restored. Clarity that has been clouded will return. You are about to discover why you have been praying but not seeing breakthrough. Why you have been working hard but not experiencing increase. Why you have been seeking but not finding. The answer may not be in your circumstances. It may not be in your faith level. It may not be in your prayers. The answer may be on your plate. The blockage may be in your kitchen. The interference may be in your refrigerator. And once you remove what does not belong, once you eliminate what is blocking the flow, everything changes. In the book of Leviticus, in the sacred text of Torah that has guided the Jewish people for millennia, God gives detailed instructions about food. Modern readers often skip these chapters, dismissing them as outdated dietary rules meant for an ancient culture. But the sages teach us to look deeper. Every command in Torah operates on multiple levels: physical, moral, and mystical. The dietary laws are not arbitrary restrictions imposed by a controlling deity. They are spiritual technologies designed to maintain the human being as a clear channel for divine communication and blessing. The Hebrew word kosher does not actually mean permitted to eat in its deepest sense. It comes from the root, meaning fit, proper, aligned. When something is kosher, it means it is aligned with divine order. It is fit for spiritual purpose. It is proper for someone who is meant to be a vessel of holiness. The opposite of kosher is treif, which literally means torn or broken. Non-kosher food is food that carries a spiritual frequency of brokenness, of misalignment, of disconnect from divine order. Now, you may not be Jewish. You may not keep kosher in the traditional sense. But understand this principle. There are substances that create alignment with spiritual flow. And there are substances that create misalignment. There are foods that sharpen your spiritual senses, and there are foods that dull them. The ancient teachers understood this at a level that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. In the Talmud, there is a teaching that says the difference between a kosher animal and a non-kosher animal is not just physical, it is spiritual. Kosher animals are described as having characteristics of gentleness, of chewing their cud, which represents meditation and contemplation, of having split hooves, which represents discernment and careful walking. These are not just biological traits, they are spiritual qualities that transfer through consumption. When you eat an animal that embodies contemplation and discernment, you are taking those qualities into yourself. When you eat an animal that embodies aggression and impulsivity, you are taking that into yourself. The Kabbalists go even deeper. They teach that every created thing contains sparks of divine light that fell during creation and became trapped in physical matter. The purpose of human eating, when done correctly, is to liberate those sparks, to elevate them back to their source. But not all foods contain sparks that humans are meant to liberate. Some contain spiritual frequencies that we are not equipped to elevate, and attempting to do so creates confusion and blockage in our spiritual system. Think of it like electrical current. Your body and soul are wired to handle certain frequencies. When you plug into frequencies you are not designed for, you do not just fail to get energy, you short-circuit the system. You create resistance. You generate static, and that static interferes with the transmission of blessing from heaven to your life. The medieval sage Maimonides, who was both a rabbi and a physician, wrote extensively about the connection between diet and spiritual clarity. He taught that certain foods cloud the mind, thicken the blood, and create a barrier between the soul and its source. He was not speaking metaphorically, he was describing actual physiological and spiritual processes that affect your capacity to receive divine guidance. to recognize opportunities, to perceive blessings that are right in front of you. There is a fascinating teaching in the Zohar about the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. The sages debate what kind of tree it was, but one interpretation says it was a mixture it contained. Both good and evil intermingled in a way that humans were not meant to sort out. This is the spiritual danger of certain foods. They are mixtures. They contain both vitality and toxicity, both nourishment and poison, and the human system becomes confused trying to process them. This confusion manifests not just physically but spiritually as brain fog, as emotional instability, as inability to discern truth from deception, as blocked blessings. The ancient Israelites were commanded to be a holy people, set apart, different, and the primary way this difference was maintained was through what they ate and did not eat. This was not about superiority. This was about functionality. If you are called to be a receiver of divine communication, a transmitter of blessing to the world, a light to the nations, you cannot afford to have static in your signal. You cannot afford to have blockages in your receiver. You must maintain your system in a state of maximum clarity and minimum interference. In the New Testament, there is a moment when Peter has a vision of all kinds of animals descending from heaven, and a voice tells him to kill and eat. Peter refuses, saying he has never eaten anything unclean. The voice responds, "What God has made clean, do not call unclean." Many interpret this as abolishing all dietary laws, but the deeper mystical reading reveals something else. It is about the expansion of who is considered part of God's covenant people. It is not saying that all foods are now spiritually neutral. It's saying that all people can now access the covenant. The principle of spiritual discernment in eating remains. Even in Christian tradition, there are teachings about the body being a temple of the Holy Spirit. If your body is a temple, then what you put into it matters immensely. You would not bring garbage into a sacred space. You would not pollute a holy site with toxins. Yet people do this to their bodies daily, and then wonder why they feel disconnected from God, why their prayers seem to bounce off the ceiling, why blessings seem to pass them by. The point is not to impose ancient Middle Eastern dietary restrictions on modern people. The point is to understand the principle. What you consume affects your spiritual frequency, and your spiritual frequency determines what you can receive from the realm of the spirit. Now we come to the practical revelation. The specific blockages that are stealing your energy and stopping your blessings. These 5 things are operating in your life right now, creating interference you have never identified, building barriers you have never seen. But once you recognize them and remove them, the shift will be immediate and undeniable. The first blockage is consuming what the ancient tradition identifies as spiritually misaligned foods that carry frequencies of confusion and disconnection. In traditional terms, these are non-kosher foods, but the principle extends beyond religious observance. This includes anything consumed without awareness of its source, its treatment, its spiritual quality. When you eat meat from animals that lived in suffering, that were treated with cruelty, that died in terror, you are consuming that energy. When you eat food that was produced through exploitation, through environmental destruction, through processes that violate divine order, you are taking that violation into yourself. Your soul knows the difference, even when your mind does not. And this creates a subtle but powerful blockage to blessing. The second blockage is excess sugar and artificial sweetness. The sages teach extensively about the danger of uncontrolled desire, what they call yetzer hara, the impulse toward immediate gratification. Sugar is the physical manifestation of this impulse. It gives instant pleasure, followed by crash and craving. It trains your entire system, physical and spiritual, to seek quick highs rather than sustained growth. It weakens your discipline, compromises your self-control, and makes you a slave to impulse. And when you are controlled by impulse, you cannot walk in wisdom. When you cannot delay gratification, you cannot make sacrifices for greater blessing. The person who cannot resist a candy bar cannot resist temptation in any area. The person who is enslaved to sugar is enslaved to the flesh, and the flesh wars against the spirit. Every time you choose artificial sweetness over natural nourishment, you are choosing immediate pleasure over long-term blessing. Write this in the comments right now. I am disciplined in body and spirit. Declare it. Make it real. This is your second covenant statement. And if you are finding value in this teaching, if this revelation is opening your eyes to connections you have never seen before, I want to invite you to support this work. Below this video, there is a thank you button. If you feel led to contribute, if you want to help us continue bringing ancient wisdom that transforms modern lives, we would be deeply grateful. Every contribution allows us to reach more people with these life-changing truths that the world desperately needs to hear. The third blockage is meat consumed without consciousness, without gratitude, in excess and gluttony. The Torah permits eating meat, but it hedges it with restrictions and rituals designed to maintain awareness. You cannot eat meat thoughtlessly in the Jewish tradition. Before an animal can be consumed, there are prayers, there are blessings, there is acknowledgement of the life being taken. Why? Because eating meat without consciousness strengthens the animal nature within you at the expense of the divine nature. It weights you toward the material and away from the spiritual. The sages taught that, in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were vegetarian. Meat was only permitted after the flood, after human consciousness had degraded. It is a concession to human weakness, but one that must be handled with extreme care. When you eat meat in excess, when you consume it mindlessly, when you make it the center of every meal, you are literally incorporating more animal energy into your system than spiritual energy. You become more driven by appetite than by purpose, more controlled by instinct than by wisdom. The fourth blockage is industrialized, processed, artificial food that bears no resemblance to anything that grows from the earth. The Kabbalists teach that food is meant to connect you to creation, to the ongoing miracle of life emerging from soil and seed and rain and sun. When you eat something that was assembled in a factory from chemical ingredients, created by scientists rather than grown by nature, you are consuming something that carries no divine spark, no life force, no connection to the Creator. It is empty. It is dead. It may fill your stomach, but it starves your soul. It may give you calories, but it drains your energy. It may taste good for a moment, but it leaves you depleted, foggy, disconnected. This is not food. This is food-like substances designed for profit, not nourishment. And every time you choose convenience over quality, artificial over natural, you are choosing blockage over blessing. The fifth blockage, and perhaps the most overlooked, is the consciousness with which you eat. Even permitted food, even healthy food, even blessed food can lose its spiritual power if consumed in the wrong state of mind. The Talmud teaches that eating while angry, while rushed, while complaining, while distracted, transforms the food into something harmful. The ancient practice of saying blessings before eating is not just about thanking God. It is about shifting your consciousness from the mundane to the sacred, from consumption to elevation, from taking to receiving. When you eat while scrolling through your phone, while watching disturbing news, while arguing with family, while stressed about work, you are literally poisoning the food with negative energy before it even enters your mouth. There is a beautiful teaching in Jewish wisdom that says a meal eaten in peace and gratitude is more nourishing than a feast eaten in stress and complaint. Two people can eat the exact same food, and one will be blessed by it while the other is harmed by it, simply because of their state of consciousness. Food eaten in peace becomes medicine. Food eaten in stress becomes poison. Food eaten with gratitude becomes blessing. Food eaten with complaint becomes curse. Let me tell you a story that will help you understand how powerful this teaching truly is. In a small Jewish community in Poland in the early 1900s, there lived a woman named Miriam. She was known throughout the village as someone with unusual spiritual sensitivity. She could sense things others could not. She often knew when visitors were coming before they arrived. Her prayers seemed to carry unusual power. People came to her for advice, for blessings, for wisdom. But then something changed. Gradually, over the course of several months, Miriam began to lose this gift. Her spiritual senses became dull. Her prayers felt empty. The clarity she had always possessed was replaced by fog and confusion. She became irritable, tired, disconnected. She thought perhaps God was testing her, or that she had sinned in some way she could not identify. She prayed more, fasted, studied longer, but nothing changed. If anything, the darkness deepened. Finally, in desperation, she went to see the village rabbi, an old man known for his depth of wisdom and understanding of the mystical dimensions of Torah. She poured out her heart to him, describing the loss of sensitivity, the spiritual darkness that had descended upon her. The rabbi listened quietly, then asked her a question that seemed completely unrelated to her spiritual crisis. He asked, "Miriam, tell me about your meals. What have you been eating? How have you been eating?" Miriam was confused by the question. What did her diet have to do with her spiritual condition? But she answered honestly. She explained that several months earlier, a new family had moved to the village. They were wealthy merchants from the city, and they had brought with them foods that the village had never seen before. Preserved meats prepared in new ways, sweets made with refined sugars and foreign ingredients, exotic delicacies from distant lands. This family had befriended Miriam and regularly invited her to elaborate meals. Not wanting to offend them, not seeing any obvious harm, Miriam had been accepting these invitations and eating these unfamiliar foods. The rabbi nodded slowly. He explained to Miriam that what she was experiencing was not a spiritual attack from outside, nor was it divine abandonment. It was interference created by what she was putting into her body. These new foods, while not technically forbidden, carried spiritual frequencies that were clouding her natural sensitivity. They were creating static in her receiver. He instructed her to return to the simple, traditional diet she had always known: whole grains, fresh vegetables, pure water, occasional fish prepared according to ancient custom. He told her to fast for 3 days to clear her system, then to rebuild her diet with consciousness and intention. Miriam followed the instructions exactly. Within 2 weeks, her spiritual clarity began to return. Within a month, she was back to her normal state of sensitivity and connection. Within 2 months, she was operating at an even higher level than before, because now she understood the connection between physical consumption and spiritual reception. She had learned the hard way what the ancient sages had been teaching for millennia. What you eat determines what you can receive. This story is not unique. Throughout history, every spiritual tradition has recognized this truth. The monks who sought enlightenment paid meticulous attention to their diet. The prophets who received divine visions often fasted or ate only specific foods. The mystics who achieved union with the divine understood that the body must be purified to be a clear channel for the spirit. This is not strange. This is not extreme. This is basic spiritual science. But in modern culture, we have been trained to think that food is just fuel. That it does not matter what we eat as long as we get enough calories. That spiritual life and physical life are completely separate domains with no overlap. This is a lie that keeps people bound, blocked, and powerless. Your body and your spirit are not separate, they are integrated. What affects one affects the other. And the fastest way to clear spiritual blockages is often to address physical consumption. Right now, as you hear these words, something is shifting inside you. You are making connections you have never made before. You are understanding why certain periods of your life were marked by clarity and others by confusion. You are recognizing patterns you never identified. You are seeing the invisible threads that connect your plate to your prayers, your kitchen to your spiritual condition, your eating habits to your life circumstances. I want you to do something right now. In the comments below, write this: I commit to eating with consciousness. Do not write it lightly. Write it as a covenant with yourself and with the divine. Write it as the first step toward eliminating the blockages that have been stealing your blessings for years, without you ever realizing it. The ancient promise still stands. When you align yourself with divine order in every area of your life, including the most basic, mundane, ordinary area of what you eat, even responds, blessings that were blocked begin to flow. Doors that were closed begin to open. Favor that was withheld begins to manifest. Not because you earned it, but because you removed the interference. You cleared the channel. You became a fit vessel for what God was always trying to pour into your life. And here is the beautiful mystery. When you begin to eat with consciousness, when you choose foods that elevate rather than degrade, when you bless your meals and consume them with gratitude, something happens that goes beyond just clearing blockages. You begin to actively attract blessings. You begin to operate at a higher frequency. You begin to notice opportunities you were blind to before. You begin to receive insights that were not available to you before. You become a magnet for divine favor because you are vibrating at the frequency of alignment with divine order. We have journeyed together through ancient wisdom that connects the most ordinary acting to the most extraordinary outcome, receiving divine blessings. We have uncovered the invisible blockages that have been draining your energy and stopping your breakthrough. We have identified the 5 specific interferences that must be eliminated. Now comes the moment of decision. Now comes the commitment. Now comes the transformation. Starting tomorrow morning, you are going to approach food differently. You are not going on a diet in the modern sense. You are entering into a spiritual practice that will revolutionize your entire life. Every meal becomes an opportunity to choose alignment or misalignment, clarity or confusion, blessing or blockage. Every time you eat, you are either elevating your consciousness or degrading it. There is no neutral consumption. First, you must examine what you have been eating that falls into the category of spiritually misaligned food. This is not about rigid religious rules, unless you choose to adopt them. This is about consciousness and source. Where did this food come from? How was it produced? What energy does it carry? If you have been consuming meat from animals that lived in suffering, that died in terror, that were treated as mere commodities rather than living creatures, this must stop. Find sources that honor life, even in the process of taking it. If you cannot find such sources, consider reducing or eliminating meat from your diet until you can. The ancient sages taught that vegetarian diet creates the clearest channel for spiritual sensitivity. You may not be called to full vegetarianism, but you are called to consciousness about any animal life you consume. Second, you must wage war against sugar addiction and artificial sweetness. This is not about never having something sweet. It is about breaking the enslavement to constant stimulation and instant gratification. For the next 30 days, eliminate all refined sugar and artificial sweeteners from your diet. All of them, no exceptions. Watch what happens to your energy, your mood, your clarity, your self-control. You will go through withdrawal in the first week because sugar is as addictive as any drug. But on the other side of that withdrawal is freedom. On the other side is self-mastery. On the other side is the ability to resist temptation in every area of your life because you have proven to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses. Third, you must bring consciousness to any meat you consume. Before eating meat, pause and acknowledge the life that was given. Thank the Creator for the provision. Eat smaller portions with greater appreciation. Make meat a small part of the meal rather than the center. Increase your intake of plant-based foods, fruits, grains, legumes. These carry the direct energy of growth, of life emerging from soil and seed, of the ongoing miracle of creation. They connect you to the earth, and through the earth to the Creator, in a way that animal products cannot. Fourth, you must eliminate the processed, industrialized, chemical-laden food-like substances that have become normalized in modern society. If it comes in a package with ingredients you cannot pronounce, if it was made in a factory rather than grown in a field, if it bears no resemblance to anything your great-grandmother would recognize as food, it does not belong in your body. This is not food. This is interference disguised as convenience. Return to real food. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store, where the actual produce is. Cook your own meals. It takes more time, yes, but what is your spiritual clarity worth? What is your access to blessing worth? Is it not worth an extra hour in the kitchen to remove years of blockage? Fifth, and perhaps most transformative, you must change how you eat even more than what you eat. Never eat while angry, while rushed, while distracted by screens and noise. Before every meal, pause for at least 30 seconds of silence. Take 3 deep breaths. Express gratitude, whether in formal prayer or simple acknowledgement. Recognize that this food is a gift, that it represents the cooperation of soil and sun and rain and seed and human labor, that it is a miracle you are about to incorporate into your very being. Eat slowly, taste each bite, chew thoroughly, be present to the experience. This is not wasted time, this is sacred practice that transforms ordinary consumption into spiritual elevation. As you implement these changes, you will face resistance. Your taste buds will protest. Your schedule will seem too busy. Your family may not understand. Your friends may mock you. The culture around you will pressure you to conform to unconscious consumption. This is when you must remember why you are doing this. You are not doing this to be difficult or extreme. You are doing this because you have been praying for breakthrough, and now you understand where the blockage is. You are doing this because you have been asking for blessing, and now you know what has been interfering with the transmission. You are doing this because you refuse to live one more day with static in your signal and barriers in your receiver. If this teaching has impacted you deeply, if you sense that this is a missing piece you have been searching for, I want to share something powerful with you. We have created an ebook that goes even deeper into these ancient principles of spiritual vitality and divine blessing. It is called Jewish Wisdom on Abundant Prosperity. In this ebook, you will find comprehensive teachings on how every aspect of your daily life, not just food, but also speech, thought, relationships, work either opens you to blessing or closes you to it. The link to access this transformative resource is in the description below this video. You will also find it in the first pinned comment. This is not just information, this is a complete system for aligning your entire life with the flow of divine abundance. Get your copy now and take the next step in your journey toward unblocked blessings. The ancient covenant remains in force. When you honor divine order in the smallest details of daily life, when you bring consciousness to the most mundane acts, when you choose alignment over convenience, heaven responds. The blessings that have been hovering over your life, unable to descend because of interference, will finally break through. The energy that has been drained will be restored. The fog that has clouded your discernment will lift. The opportunities that passed you by because you could not perceive them will become visible and available. You are not just changing your diet. You are changing your destiny. You are not just eliminating certain foods. You are eliminating the invisible barriers between you and everything God has been trying to give you. You are not just adopting new eating habits. You are stepping into a new dimension of spiritual sensitivity and divine favor. The sages teach that the body is the vessel through which the soul operates in the physical world. If the vessel is clogged, if it is filled with interference, if it is carrying static and confusion, the soul cannot fulfill its purpose. But when the vessel is clear, when it is clean, when it is aligned with divine order, the soul shines through with power and clarity. You become who you were always meant to be. You access what was always meant to be yours. You walk in the blessings that have your name on them, but could not reach you because of blockages you did not even know existed. Your transformation begins with your very next meal. Not tomorrow, not next week. Your next meal. Whatever you were planning to eat, pause and ask yourself, does this elevate me or degrade me? Does this create clarity or confusion? Does this open me to blessing or block it? Make the choice that aligns with who you are becoming, not who you have been. The 5 blockages have been revealed. The interference has been identified. The static has been named. And now you have the power to eliminate them. You have the knowledge. You have the tools. You have the understanding. The only question is, will you do it? Will you make the changes? Will you choose consciousness over convenience, alignment over addiction, blessing over temporary pleasure? These 5 foods have been stealing your energy and invisibly blocking your blessings for too long. But their power ends today. Their influence stops now. You are taking back control. You are clearing the channel. You are removing the barriers. And on the other side of this commitment is a version of your life you have only dreamed about, where blessings flow freely, where energy is abundant, where clarity is constant, where divine favor surrounds you like a shield. The ancient promise stands: if you will walk in my ways and keep my charge, then you will judge my house and have charge of my courts. And I will give you access among those who stand here. When you align yourself with divine order, you gain access to realms you could not enter before, access to resources that were not available before, access to wisdom that was not perceivable before, access to blessings that were blocked before. Your access is being restored right now. The blockages are being removed. The static is being cleared. The interference is being eliminated. And the flow of blessing from heaven to your life is about to become a flood that transforms everything you touch, everything you do, everything you are. Speak it, believe it, live it, walk in it. Your energy is being restored. Your blessings are being unblocked. Your destiny is being fulfilled. And it begins with what you choose to consume and how you choose to consume it. Choose wisely. Choose consciously. Choose life. Choose blessing. The power is in your hands. The decision is yours. And the result will be undeniable.